Oasis of the Zombies! They came to find Nazi gold. Instead, they found death. Oasis of the Zombies! A story of action, romance, and betrayal. Oasis of the Zombies! Beautiful young flesh,
come on.
waiting to be consumed. Oasis of the Zombies! Directed by Jess Franco. Wait, no, that's not what it says in the movie there. Well, anyways, Oasis of the Zombies! Oasis of the Zombies! Coming soon to a theater near you.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror! Rainbows from Hell. Yes, we are now at episode 6 after last night's wonderfully terrible movie, Oasis of the Zombies. Hey, you know, sometimes you just gotta experience the crap so that you can appreciate the good, right? Anyway, still, it was fun to watch. Crazy, I know, but I was just, kept wanting to watch for some morbid reason. I don't know. I guess apparently I watch horror movies for morbid reasons, anyways, curiosity and stuff like that. So, anyways, tonight's episode, as you can tell by the title and maybe by the shirt, I am going to partially fulfill a request. Yes, it was requested that I review Friday the 13th. Yes, Friday the 13th. However, I did ask, did you mean the original or the remake or both? And of course it said both, and I'm like, sure, I can do both. In fact, if I really wanted to cheat, I could just do all of them. And that's like a third of the 31 Nights right there. But no, I kind of try to stay away from like the super iconic movies, because a movie like Friday the 13th, pretty much what needs to be said about it has already been said. There's like 1,002 videos about it. I mean, what more can I add to just something like that? Plus, I want to kind of steer people to some of the more obscure stuff, some of the things they may not have heard about. But it was a request, and I am happy to oblige, because I'm watching a movie that I enjoy, and it just hits me in that nostalgia. Just really, it does. I mean, I grew up afraid, very afraid of like this type of movie, and my goodness, to be able to watch it and enjoy it and vanquish my fears. Of course, one of the reasons I love horror movies. But, so, Friday the 13th. First of all, I gotta say, this is the DVD box set of all the Paramount Friday the 13th. That's Friday the 13th 1 through 8. And it came in this awesome, you may have noticed this before, this awesome box with the Jason hockey mask. Yes, limited edition. Only 50,000 were printed, and I've got 26,445. So I'm in the bottom half percent. The bottom half of that run. But still, I got my hands on it, and it is awesome. It has each movie in its own little separate kind of book, and they give you wonderful fun facts. Like, some of them will tell you what the working title is. Like, for instance, Part 5, A New Beginning, was called Repetition. That was its working title. And it also gives you fun facts like the body count and a number of weapons used. So it's really cool. Also, each one has special features like trailers and commentary and also little featurettes and stuff like that, behind the scenes wonderfulness, which is really cool. If you do have I like that cool background too. It shows Jason here. I mean, if you do have the chance to find this and pick it up, it was a deal when I purchased it. It's probably, I don't know if it's worth more now, but it's definitely a deal. I know it's DVD, but the Blu-ray, my God, the Blu-ray set, I can't really justify popping the money down right at this moment anyways for it. But still, it's great stuff. So, Friday the 13th, the movie, the icon, the legend, the myth. What can I say about it? I mean, first of all, I must say, watching it again and again and again, probably like the 5 billionth time I watched this movie, I tried to look at it kind of like in a little critical eye, try to wipe away the nostalgia, try to be a little bit more, harsh on it. And I have to say, yes, it's compared to, anything like hardcore horror movie fans of today's day. Well, maybe not today's day and age, because some of the stuff in the 2000s and late 2010s have been kind of tame. But one would say that this movie does have a slow pace and that the violence isn't very graphic. And the storyline is pretty A, B, C, and D. Sure, it's got the twist, and you really don't see it coming. However, everyone's used to things like this. All the tropes are there, and people would call it very formulaic and derivative. But the problem is, it's because they watched all the stuff that copied this movie and think that this is just a copy of that. But this was the classic. This had all the I guess you would say formula for making the horror movies. That is, you take a bunch of teenagers, you put them in a place, establish a dark and evil past, you cut them off from civilization and authority. They're out. The safety people, the adults, the police, they're miles and miles away. And you pick them off one by one. And by the time people realize something bad is happening, it's already too late. You're going to get an X in the face. I mean, that's basically what the plot of the movie is. There's, way back in the 1950s, late 50s, like 1958, there was a couple counselors were murdered. A year prior to that, there was a kid who drowned. And then they tried to reopen this camp back in the 60s, but there was a problem with the water. So here we are, 1980. Someone else is trying to reopen Camp Crystal Lake. And, of course, murder happens because a vengeful spirit, a vengeful whatever entity is playing on the curse. The town folk, they're all like, Camp Blood, stay away from that place. You got a job there, quit. Of course, you have the old man with the, you're doomed. You're all doomed. And then rides away on his bicycle. I mean, I'm sorry, I just got that picture of him in my head. Anyways, but of course the not the campers, but the counselors say, hey, no, whatever, this is all nonsense. We go there, the main guy, last name I think was Christie, he had to go off and do some stuff in town, so he lets the counselors off by themselves, and of course, instead of doing all the work, they kind of goof off a bit, and one by one, they're picked off by a anonymous killer. And by the time that anyone thinks something's wrong, it's a dark and stormy night, it's too late. There's nobody left. And we get the surprise reveal of who the killer is and the connection with the camp's bloody and dark past. And it is a doozy. Now, I'm not going to spoil it, even though everyone knows who is the original killer. I mean, you've seen Scream. It's everywhere. We all know who the killer is, but just in case you are part of that 0.1% who doesn't know who the killer is and want to watch this, then go right ahead and watch it. I'm not going to tell you who the killer is, but it is definitely, especially considering the context. I mean, you have a picture in your mind of what the prototypical serial killer in a slasher movie is. You know, it's usually some big, gruff, tall, menacing, unstoppable monster. And this kind of takes that whole slasher trope and turns it on its head, because the killer is not someone you expect. And you kind of, in a way, it is kind of brilliant and shows like the psychopathy of the killer, and kind of gives you a bit of sympathy for the killer, because you actually have a killer where you sort of understand where they're coming from. Unlike Halloween, which is kind of like the grandfather of the modern slasher, and this was the copycat. This was the attempt to cash in on the new growing trend of the slasher genre, and cash in it did, because this was definitely the most successful out of all the franchises that spawned off the slasher genre. And honestly, part 2 was going to be not even related to part 1. They wanted to make it kind of an anthology, where each new episode or each new movie was a different separate storyline with just, horror elements. But the studio or the producers, whoever, the guys in charge said no, we want a true sequel. And this is one of those cases where those executives were right to do that, because we did get one of the greatest horror series of all time. We got one of the greatest horror icons of all time. And I'm pretty happy with it. Yes, in an alternate reality, if they did that, it could have been awesome. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out with all these wonderful movies. Yes, there have been some turds in there, but they all have a warm place in my heart. They're special to me anyways. But going back, the movie did something different from Halloween. Halloween, you had a killer, which there was like no related. He was just evil, darkness, death incarnate. With this movie, you had an antagonist that you kind of think, well, that person does have a little bit of a point, yes, and they're probably doing it the wrong way, because murder is usually the wrong way about doing things, but still, you can kind of see that person's perspective. And I thought that was great. I thought that the plot itself was actually pretty inventive in that aspect, and I'm going to give it a pretty good score because of that. So wait, let's just get to the scores anyways. So Violence and Gore, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. Most of the score is with the two most iconic scenes in this movie. The one where there is a El Decapitado and the Kevin Bacon scene. The arrow scene, that is probably one of my favorite horror movie kills of all time. If I had to make a top 10, that kill would definitely be in it. It just, Tom Savini, who I've met on several occasions, very nice guy. I have an autographed Blu-ray, because he did special effects work on Red Scorpion, so I actually got an autographed Blu-ray by him. I also have an autographed picture. I don't know where I have that. I think it's actually in storage. Unfortunately, I don't think I have it displayed. But anyways, really great guy. His work with that was just spectacular. The arrow, if it's and you don't really see it coming. Of course, I saw it coming because I've seen this movie a million times, and that's one of the things that makes this hard to review, because I'm not going to have a fresh perspective. But anyways, 2.5 out of 5. Those two scenes alone. A lot of the other violence is cutaway off screen. There is a nice throat slitting, and there is the grisly aftermath when they start finding the bodies. because that's one of the things is like you kill them one by one, but you don't start revealing the bodies until toward the end, and then it's always popping up through a window or on a close a door and there it is. It's so oh no, I'm gonna go escape in the car. Oh my god, always. That's where that's where you got. If you ever see a movie that does that, that's kind of where they got it from. Anyways, so shock value, it's hard for me because nothing's going to shock me in this movie because I know everything. I know where all the scares are coming from. However, in context, I would say it's 3 out of 5 because definitely the ending scare was awesome the first time I saw it and very memorable. There are a couple scenes out there that are really going to, if you've never seen the movie, are going to hit you. And so I'm giving it a pretty decent score of 3 out of 5 for shock value. Plus the fact that the arrow is just awesome. That scene is just awesome. Acting, I'm giving it 2.5 out of 5. For the most part, I think everything was fine. You did get the weird acting of the old guy, oh, doomed. And of course, the killer's psychoticness toward the end was kind of cheesy and not as kind of laughable. So I'm giving it a lower scores because of that. So I'm just going to give it a nice 2.5 out of 5. Plot, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 because honestly, everything makes sense. You've got the camp that had the checkered past. Someone, entrepreneurial spirit, wants to reestablish the camp, wants to do it for the kids. You get a bunch of teenagers who need a summertime job. They want some summer money, get away from the family, get out, kind of have some independence. And then, someone who doesn't want the camp open decides to close it down the only way they know how, and that's by murdering people. And, there's not like too many conveniences in the plot. Everything seemed to work well. And there aren't anything, when I go through, I'm like, I'm not really seeing anything that doesn't make sense or any holes in here. I mean, everything seems to be tied up quite nicely. And of course you get like the big twist and the shock at the end, which I enjoyed. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I love this film. So screw you if you think I'm wrong, because I'm not. It's awesome. Yeah. Screw you, old-time movie critics who panned the hell out of this movie. This movie was reviewed poorly by your mainstream critics anyways. But going on, Nudity, I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. I know, shocking, this is a Friday the 13th movie, and there's not a lot of nudity. Hey, there's actually, part 6, I think, has 0 in it, which is one of the reasons why I'm not as big a fan of part 6. Another thing is some of the ridiculousness of that movie. However, we're not talking about part 6. We're talking about part 1. There are some titties, so there you are. 1 out of 5. Yes, there are ones that have a lot more. I like one of these where it says the skinny dipper survival rate, and it says 0%. I guess that could be a spoiler, right? Anyway, so 1 out of 5. Enjoyment factor, 4 out of 5. I just love watching this movie. I just like it. I like the grain, the darkness. Everything nowadays seems so clean and crisp, and there's just something about like the grain and the way that the contrast, the darks are like really dark and you can't see things, and the light and shadow just creates an aura all of itself. Plus the music by was that Manfredi, I think is the last name. It's just wonderful. That stuff just goosebumps. And everything that the movie is just 80s slasher, alone at a camp, it's dark and rainy, and someone's trying to kill you. Goodness. It hits me in so many places that I just enjoy it. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. Like Beetlejuice, it keeps getting funnier every time I see it. I just kidding, it doesn't get any funnier. It's just enjoyable. Plus, who does not like watching Kevin Bacon get an arrow through the throat? Come on! Everyone loves that stuff. So, 4 out of 5, and I'm going to go with my overall impression, my more critical musing, is going to be a 3 out of 5. Yes, there's pacing issues. There's not as much violence and graphic violence as one may be expecting in a horror movie of this caliber nowadays. And yes, the acting is so in parts, but overall, a solid film, an iconic horror film, a must-watch for any horror film aficionado, because those are required viewing. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, those are required viewing. Hell, I could probably say Hellraiser is probably in there. And till after 3, you can kind of stop after 3. 4 was okay, but Space, when you get a series like that and it's in space, once you get to space, it's basically the death of your series. That's my place. I mean, look at Jason got into space, so yeah, it's kind of like the end once you hit space. I mean, Leprechaun. I mean, it was the end after the first one, but anyways, so there you have it, 3 out of 5 overall impression. That's an average score of 2.9 out of 5. So there you have it. Friday the 13th, the original. Awesome movie. Great fun. Love to watch it. And of course that means tomorrow night's episode is going to have to be the remake of Friday the 13th. And I'm going to give you a little spoiler. I enjoyed that movie. I did. I really did. I thought that it had the spirit of what Friday the 13th is or has become in its heyday. Not necessarily what it became in the later stages, but definitely I thought was quite in the spirit of Friday the 13th. So anyways, stay tuned next time for that. And I think I will leave it at that, Friday the 13th. Hey, give me a comment. Tell me what you think. Leave a like. Apparently, according to other YouTubers, leave a like. It helps the channel a lot. I don't know how it actually helps my channel. I mean, I don't get a report saying, hey, you got a like there, so, good job. Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, so there you have it. Friday the 13th. And everyone out there, YouTube land, internet land, stay safe.